Hello and welcome to the live video launch of the Island Quarter, a brand new community for the city of Nottingham. It's been decades in the making and now the time has finally come for the former Boots Island site to be transformed by Conygar in what's thought to be the biggest development of its kind in the UK at the moment. Today we'll be sharing an exclusive video with you all and previewing some of the plans for Canal Turn, the opening phase of the development. We'll also be heading down to the site where Tom Snee will be chatting with some of the key people that are bringing this development forwards, won't you, Tom?
That's right, Danielle. I'll be here in the Island Quarter talking to the architects working on plans for Phase 1A of the site, as well as project team leader Richard Watson and Richard Bennett from the Canal and River Trust. The team behind the project has been working intensely on bringing it forward over the last couple of years, which brings us to the stage we're at today.
The Island Quarter site comprises 40 acres within 5 minutes of City Hall and the railway station, 10 minutes from the real city centre, and has been derelict, as we know, for 25 years.
I think it's very exciting. We've had an area of the city that's looked a bit shabby for quite a while now, and the amount of investment that's going in different buildings across the south of the city centre are very exciting. We are seeing changes on a daily basis.
The idea is to redevelop this brownfield site into a whole mixture of properties that people can use. So be it student accommodation, residential accommodation, a hotel, decent rented accommodation for people to utilise. We will also have a creative area. Nottingham's famous for its history, its fashion, its jewellery, its lace, and obviously technology these days, and these are all the things that we need to capture.
And I'm a councillor for the area that abuts the island site, and there's been a long time waiting for development of that whole site. So I think the ideas that are coming forward are really innovative. A linear park, that's for me the most exciting thing, that's going to link Sneinton into the city centre in a green way, which is totally fitting for our city and our green credentials and ambitions.
We've been working very closely with the council, the planning departments and all the different stakeholders that are involved, and we were trying to start, if we can go on site as soon as possible, but realistically it'll be the spring, the summer.
We've got forward-looking employers who are really have chosen to come to Nottingham because of things like the tram, because of the other networks we've got here. And then we've got a city council that really wants to develop the city, and a planning committee that is not out to catch out developers, but actually to facilitate really good growth. We're looking forward as Nottingham, we're not trying to recreate the past.
The 40-acre site has been available for 25 years for somebody to actually regenerate. Nottingham has a huge history and a fantastic brand name. It has the universities, it has technology businesses, it has Boots, it has all the famous brands. There's a core business ethic here, and we wish to build on that.
This truly is a landmark project for the city, and one that's going to completely transform an area that's long been considered an eyesore. Delighted to be joined by Richard Watson, who's heading up the team that's working on these early phases of the site. So Richard, for those watching who are needing a bit of a catch-up, what stage are we at the moment?
Planning consent was granted in April 2019, and we've been working closely with the council to agree the Section 106. So now Conygar are proceeding with the detailed planning application for Phase 1A, which is this exciting new pavilion overlooking the canal on the Island Quarter.
So it's been a little while since outline planning was approved. What's been going on in the meantime?
Conygar have been working closely with the architects and the design team to develop these plans, not only for the first phase, but also for the bigger site as well. We've been undertaking a lot of research, not only with Nottingham City Council, but also the people, to ensure that we're producing a development that's fit for Nottingham and for the wider world.
We talk about the site being unique, but what is it that makes it so unique in the UK?
We have 40 acres of derelict site that is 2 minutes walk from the main city station. It gives us the opportunity to create a worldwide destination for Nottingham, with not only hotels, offices and a significant amount of leisure space.
We're referring to this as Phase 1A, and James Dilly from Jessica and Miles telling us about Phase 1A later on. What's Phase 1B?
The next phase will be an exciting new lifestyle hotel with both long stay and short stay rooms, 30,000 square feet of integrated co-working space, and also 250 build-to-rent apartments and event space designed for the people and businesses of Nottingham. At the same time, we're looking at a planning application for a new 660-bed PBSA unit for the students of the two distinguished universities in Nottingham.
Richard, incredibly exciting times. We'll hear more about it throughout the show, and we'll hear from you later on in the Q&A. But for now, it's back to you, Danielle.
Thanks, Tom and Richard. We'll be hearing more from both of you later on in the show. Now, as Tom mentioned, Richard will be joining our live Q&A at the end of the programme, alongside the leader of Nottingham City Council, Councillor David Mellon, and Director for Planning and Regeneration, Paul Seddon. And just a reminder that you can find out more about the development by visiting the Island Quarter website at theislandquarter.com and by following us on Twitter and Instagram at Island Quarter. There'll also be a full version of this webisode available on YouTube, so keep an eye out on our social media channels for the link to that soon. But for now, let's head back down to the site, where Tom is joined by James Dilley of Jestico & Wiles, the architect which has put together the design for Canal Turn.
Thanks, Danielle. I am indeed joined by James. Now, James, you guys have done a fantastic job of putting together the pavilion for this first phase. Tell us a little bit about what it consists of.
Phase 1A is the opener. It's the appetizer of something way bigger, but we'll just talk about 1A for the moment. This is going to be, in terms of uses, there'll be a pavilion building. This holds 2 restaurants and an event space, and then we have a roof terrace as well, which is an extension of the event space, which will connect with the public realm, which is extensive in this area. 90% of the 1A site is actually the public realm, which again accommodates every kind of event that the city and the owners might want to put on here. But the main thing is that all of those things will work together as one incredible destination for the city.
And we're showing some CGIs on the screen at the moment. Can you tell us a little bit about the inspirations behind the design?
That's a difficult question to answer in a quick bite, but the inspiration here, the layers of cultural and historic legacy of this site just go on for decades, if not centuries. What we're producing is a pavilion which somehow evokes the memory of the industrial and railway age, not in a thematic way, but something which looks as if it's a legacy element that's been left on the quay side of a working canal, and will somehow blend with that history whilst providing incredibly up-to-date and current facilities for the future.
And obviously it's a very prominent corner of a massive site. You can hear the main road actually going on behind us. Did that factor into your design at all?
Of course it did. I mean, it's geographically prominent, it's culturally prominent, it's part of the city. It's just far enough away from the city centre to make it a destination, but it's still close enough that people can walk and cycle, which we hope people will do when it opens. Our job is to make something which creates a strong enough magnet that makes people move that extra distance. It's going to be through the seasons, it's going to be starting in the morning, going through to late night, so it's going to be a highly dynamic, fully active site, inside and out, all year round.
James, excellent to hear from you. Thank you very much. Let's go back to you, Danielle.
Thanks, Tom and James. It's great to see some of the detail and the incredible effort that's all gone into this phase. Now, Canal Turn is just the first phase of the multi-million-pound redevelopment of the Island Quarter, which forms a key part of Nottingham's south side regeneration. Tom spoke with Lorraine Baggs, Head of Inward Investments at Invest in Nottingham, to get an update on how the overall picture is looking.
Well, the south side has been a real game changer for Nottingham. It's really expanded the south side of the city around the railway station, the tram hub and everything. We've seen already, prior to COVID and the pandemic, huge amounts of regeneration going on in there in terms of Unity Square, the HMRC building there, the college hub, and a number of sites around the station for residential, which is absolutely fabulous because it's bringing the workforce back into the city. The cranes are still moving, so that's really good for us. It's £2 billion plus, and that is currently growing. So the Island Quarter, as part of that, is really a hugely significant site, and it also brings the south side more in touch with the urban areas around the edge of the city.
Yeah, you mentioned the Island Quarter and its role in that connectivity with the outskirts of the city. What is there else that makes it so important?
Well, it's actually so visible with the arterial route into the city coming in from the south and across Trent Bridge and up London Road. It's a great access route for people coming in for work, pleasure, just to visit the city. And, for too long, and we all know how long that's been, it hasn't been the great entrance to the city that we'd like it to be. And being so close to the city centre, it's an absolutely fantastic opportunity. And I'm not aware of any other city in the UK that's got such a large site with such potential so close to the city centre.
And of course, it's not just keeping it thriving for the community, it's also bringing jobs and investment into the city as well, isn't it?
It's exactly that, and you know, the more jobs and investment that come into the city, obviously the better. We know in the current climate that retail has taken a mega hit. So we want the city to keep thriving. So that means people have got to be in the city, whether they're living in the city or whether they're working in the city. And again, the size of that site, both for employment and residential, is completely significant and is quite complementary to the other employment and residential sites that are happening around the south side as well. We've been working with the Conygar team, you know, for the last 2 or 3 years. You know, right from the outset, there seemed to be a very clear commitment to the city. There was a few people that needed convincing, and I think that's absolutely fine. And we've sort of worked alongside them now, I'd say, for a significant amount of time, and helped with things like demographic information, things that are going to help them actually make the site and its brand something that the city is going to be proud of. And hopefully we'll continue with that good working relationship as things develop.
Lorraine Baggs from Invest in Nottingham there, talking about the potential for jobs and investment that the Island Quarter is creating. Now, the plans for this scheme have been long in the making, but have always been supported by Nottingham City Council. Paul Seddon is the council's Director for Planning and Regeneration, and he's down on site with Tom now. How's it going, you two?
Thanks, Danielle. The rain has stopped, thankfully, and I'm down here with Paul Seddon. So, Paul, we've just heard from Richard Watson about the planning for Phase 1A. Canal Turn is going in later this month. How has it been as a planning department working with Conygar?
I've got to say, really good. I mean, the history, you know, this site has got a long history. Some false storms, a lot of previous planning applications, and as a City Council, we a few years ago decided that had to stop, and we needed to give a real clarity for what the future of the Island Quarter site was going to be. From the outset, I would say that, you know, they were really receptive, really responsive to the requests that we made and how we saw what the Island Quarter could become and needed to become. I think most importantly, they were really willing to work with us and assemble a team that would take a master developer, kind of placemaker role on the site.
So the last few months, obviously with lockdown, it's brought some particular challenges. How have you guys got through that?
It has brought challenges, without a doubt. I mean, we left Loxley House, our HQ, in March. And you know, kind of pretty much then spent the next couple of days working out how we got as close to business as usual as we could do with it across the planning teams and across as much of the council as we could do. We've managed to keep, I think, that momentum and that open for business, which is, you know, really, really important for the planning role, kind of regeneration and development. And the same for the Conygar team. We've even had a design review panel. We've had a few of those over the lockdown period, but we've had one for Phase 1 for the Island Quarter site, and that worked well as well.
Obviously, it's a hugely significant site, not just for, you know, the development of the site itself, but for the city in a wider context and the south side area of the city.
Absolutely. I mean, the Island Quarter has been vacant for far too many decades. It's part of our wider city centre. It's very visible. You know, it's perhaps a symbol of the city in previous years. I think the most important thing now is it's another big ingredient in our transformation and the kind of once in a generation regeneration development opportunities that are happening across Nottingham. And I think now, kind of post COVID, and as we move into you know, really challenging times, to see this scheme develop at pace over the next probably a decade, given the scale of the site and the size of the site, it was going to be critical for the city. And I think, you know, it'll be critical for people who can live here and work here and come and visit here and spend time in the linear park and in the leisure opportunities and around the canal basin. But as a statement out from one of the country's core cities, to have a development of this scale, which is probably not far off unique, I think, in terms of its opportunity and its scale and what's going to be delivered. It's vital for us, and it's vital for, I think, for the regional economy.
Thanks, Paul. Great to hear from you. We'll get some more from you in the live Q&A later. But for now, it's back to you in the dry, Danielle.
Thanks both. A fascinating insight from Paul there into just how the planning process has worked during these unprecedented times. Now, as with any development of this size, the Section 106 agreement is a major step forward. Greg Miller-Cheevers of Conygar has been working with the council on the agreements, and he spoke to Tom about what it means for moving the island quarter forwards.
Section 106 is a really important agreement for us, as it is for any developer. It heralds the point where we obtain planning consent officially. Our 106 would include things such as educational payments, contributions towards highways, public realm improvements, cycle paths, art, and 20% affordable housing.
And how's your experience been working with the City Council? Obviously, this has been, outline planning was approved back in April 2019, so it's been quite a long process. How has it been for you?
This has all been played out through COVID, and so difficult times and quite challenging. But Paul Seddon's very good at kind of managing those issues. He has been throughout the entire process, and he's brought those skills to the 106. I never thought that I would ever be negotiating a 106 in the garden with the head planner, as I was. So that was the first for me. But that's the type of chap Paul is, really, and he's been a big part of where we are today.
Now, Section 1A of the project, Canal Turn, it's all about the canal basin. Tell us a little bit about the improvements that this is going to bring to the canal side area in Nottingham.
The canal is a gem, in our view. It's a much underutilised asset in Nottingham terms. And so what we have and what we propose, I think it exceeds the expectations of the city. It's very bold, it's very brave, and it's a testament to Conygar that they have chosen to go about the development in this way. And it's super exciting. So it's a great placemaking piece to the overall development.
Greg Miller-Cheevers from Conygar there, talking about the bold vision for the development. Now, as the name suggests, Canal Turn will be a key new feature on the city's canal routes, which have been largely underutilised. Thankfully, though, a change is in the air with this project, which will see millions invested into both the site's canal basin and the wider canal side district. And on that note, let's head back down to the site now, where Tom is joined by Richard Bennett from the Canal and River Trust.
Thanks, Danielle. We're down at the Canal Basin area, which is going to be completely revitalised by this development, and we're joined by Richard Bennett. Richard, Danielle's mentioned in the intro there that Nottingham hasn't historically been great at using its waterfront spaces. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's actually a common picture around the country. Canals were built not for the kind of the leisure potential and well-being potential that we now see, but they were built for freight and industry, and so they didn't always have the appropriate accesses that we require now for people to get to them. Of course, mid-late 20th century, all development in most cities was dominated by cars and roads, so the canal has tended to be forgotten for its potential as a sustainable transport route, which again is very much kind of in vogue and so important at the moment. Certainly that's something that we see great potential in the island quarter, in changing, a great transformation in creating the accessible green space that there is along the canal.
Yeah, you mentioned the plans for here. What will they bring to this sort of canal offering for Nottingham?
From what we've seen at the moment, it completely opens up the access on this eastern side of the basin. At the moment we have this large sort of railway era wall, which is almost a barrier to people, both coming down to the canal but in the other direction as well. The plans we've seen so far are an open, almost amphitheatre like thing to encourage people down to enjoy the water space. Canal and River Trust, we're a charity that care for the canals and rivers, and we know that being by water is great for people's well-being, so it's a great thing for this development that you have water involved in it.
And we've heard Greg and a few of the other guys talk about the Canal Improvement District. Can you give us a little bit of information about what that entails?
That's something that we, the Canal and River Trust, began towards the end of last year, seeing the potential that there is for the canal to contribute to the well-being of the citizens, the communities and the businesses here in Nottingham. So we got in contact with many of the local businesses that are, some of them which are directly on the canal side, and shared with them what we could offer in terms of opportunities for them to get involved with activities for their employees, helping green up some of the space. But we had over 100 local canal side businesses that were keen on the potential that we'd show them for them to get involved. Like we said, it's a great green-blue corridor within the city. And the city is keen on sustainable transport routes. The canal plus the island quarter will provide that great east-west route. And all the businesses will have a chance to say, let's make it, it's something, it's a bit more beauty on the doorstep of all those businesses and communities that we have here in Nottingham.
Thanks, Richard. Great to hear about those plans. That's just about it from us down here on the site, but you can keep an eye on the rest of the show for more information.
Massive thanks to all of our fantastic guests who have spoken to us today, and of course Tom for speaking to everyone. It's now a pleasure to be joined by Councillor David Mellon, Richard Watson and Paul Seddon, who are going to be answering some of the questions that we've had sent in during this week. Thank you to everyone who has sent them in. I hope you're all well. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. Our first question is for you, Richard, from Isaac Sabo. Given the development's distance from the city centre, how can you be sure that you'll be able to create a development that's going to draw people in?
I think the answer is very simple. The first phase is this combination of residential, hotel, serviced offices, some leisure and restaurants in this new green environment. So it's going to bring a new community for the city, a place to live, to work and play, where people will know each other with a shared experience.
I think you've put that really well there. Paul or Councillor Mellon, would you like to add anything to that?
I think it's going to be a great link between some of our communities and the city centre. So yes, it's very close to the market square and to the station, but it's also easily accessible from the Meadows and from Sneinton, from St Anne's, and from people coming across Trent Bridge from Rushcliffe. So yeah, it's very well placed for, I think, linking up different parts of the city.
In terms of what the city centre is, what the city is, we do need to start thinking broader in terms of no boundaries to those sorts of things of a city centre. And I think the mix of purposes and places to live and so on, and the spreading of that energy from kind of the traditional, perhaps high street and shopping areas, and the Island Quarter is a critical bit of that in terms of spreading all that energy, development activity, but fundamentally a place for people to aspire to live in, to working, to visit and to enjoy their time.
Definitely, and we've been talking about connectivity there. Everyone's kind of mentioned it already. So Paul, on that theme, sticking with connectivity, how will the site link to the railway station and the city, and how does the Island Quarter sit within the south side regeneration of the project?
Well, I mean, Danielle, this is I suppose a vital question. It's one that I would say has been part of our continuous discussions with the Conygar team, right from the offing, from when we were putting together sort of our planning documents for it and our aspirations for it. I suppose in simple terms, to the station, the crossing of London Road is going to be key. We're on the traffic teams, the planning teams, and Conygar's kind of team are at the moment doing design work about how to get primarily pedestrians and cyclists across that link at the end of Station Road, over London Road, into and out of the Island Quarter site, and that feels like a seamless, high quality, pleasant place for somebody to walk across or cycle across. A few challenges there, because London Road in that place is really rather busy. And it's a critical part of our kind of southern relief road, and that will help with all the changes around Broadmarsh and Collins Street and the like. I think the other connection to the station that's key, and the video touched on it, is the canal, and what opportunity we can give along the canal and along the towpath of a link and linking that up to the station. The city itself and the wider city then. Obviously, the links across to the east and Manvers Street and into Sneinton are going to be vitally important. There's a whole new junction proposed on Manvers Street, but that's about not just vehicles. That's about people, pedestrians, cyclists, and what have you getting over. Links and improvements along the Greenway. And I think importantly then slightly further afield to the waterside. So really that kind of connectivity has been at the heart of the discussions. There are future plans around potentially London Road Island, reimagining that so that it's easier to get to and from the site into the Lace Market and the city centre. And I think, you know, I can't not say around, you know, kind of movements north south. So up into Sneinton Market, the Creative Quarter, and the like. And there's some monies in the project, and through that kind of lengthy Section 106 discussion that we've had to do some improvements along there. I think what I'd say finally on that one is Island Quarter needs to, and we will help, and Conygar are on with this. It needs to be a kind of name and a brand rather than kind of Island feeling like a description of the site itself.
Absolutely. Anything, Councillor Mellon or Richard, would you like to add anything to Paul's answer there? It's so hard to put it all into a short answer, I'm sure, but you did an incredible job there, definitely.
I think Paul covered most of it. I think the link to River Trent is also there, isn't it? Along the canal, lots of people walk along the canal currently, but they walk past the sort of the desolation of the current island site. How much more exciting it's going to be when they walk past that really distinct pavilion, and then the things that are beyond it. I think it's very exciting, and I think we will draw people into our city via the Island Quarter.
I completely agree. I'm a Nottingham girl, born and bred, so I'm very excited to see what's going on at the Island Quarter. We're going to stay with you, Councillor Mellon, because this will be something that is a question on many people's lips, I'd imagine. Just what is the importance of the Island Quarter now, given the situation within Broadmarsh that's just developed?
Well, clearly the situation at Broadmarsh is very difficult, and one that is occupying much of our minds at the City Council. And clearly the development within two will not progress as planned. However, that is not the end of Broadmarsh. We will use this opportunity to rethink and reconsult with the people of the city and beyond as to what that space should be. And certainly something exciting will come out of that. But obviously, as was said in the film, the Broadmarsh Centre is only part of the South Side development. From the castle through to the pedestrianisation of Collins Street, through to the HMRC building, the Broadmarsh bus station, the car park, and the space for the exciting new library, through to the college. And then when you get to the college, you're only a stone's throw from the Island Quarter. So it will link in really well. And as the leader of the council, I'm really excited that we have yet another site starting to be developed, a site that has, as people have said, been left for a long time. I live in Sneinton and I walk regularly through that island site, that Island Quarter that it's now going to become. And I look forward to walking along the linear path, the linear park. I look forward to visiting the pavilion, and I look forward to meeting people who will live there or maybe come and stay in the hotel there. It's all linked together. But absolutely, at the particular time when the Broadmarsh plans aren't developing as we would like, they will do, they'll come back, but it's all the more important that there'll be people, diggers and cranes and everything else that's going to be involved on the Island Quarter site. Very exciting. We're really pleased it's happening.
Definitely exciting months and years to come, I would say, absolutely. Now, Richard and Paul, this one can go to both of you. I'll come to you, Richard, first. How will you ensure that the retail and leisure element of the scheme is successful in light of the ongoing decline of the high street? Is that a mix of, retail and leisure a key consideration in the planning phase?
The leisure bit and the food and beverage offering is really the important bit. We're not a shopping centre. We're not providing retail accommodation. We're looking to provide those ancillary retail uses which residents and occupiers want. Whether it's a hairdresser or a dry cleaner. We are not in the business of providing retail accommodation.
Paul, anything you'd like to add?
I think, Danielle, the approach that we've taken, I suppose from the planning perspective, is that what happens on the Island Quarter needs to broaden the offer for Nottingham, and I think and build on that kind of regional heart role that the city has and the city centre has, and this is kind of widening the city centre and kind of our perception of the city centre. we've got to be careful, and we'll continue to be careful that it isn't creating a city centre in its own right, and it's not having a kind of direct competition to what are challenging. They were challenging times already for the kind of traditional high street. They will be challenging like we've never experienced before. I think as we have to move forward. And lots of the discussions with the Conygar team have been about bringing new things to the city. So again, kind of that broadening and widening the offer, I think will be key. I think there will be, obviously, this is the size of the site. This is a whole urban village in its own right. And I think in the way that we've seen sort of our kind of local and district centres, and kind of almost be kind of reinvigorated and refound perhaps by people kind of during lockdown and so on, and that kind of localness around it. Part of the mix that happens on the Island Quarter site, is going to be a high quality provision for the people that are living, working and visiting that site itself. So I think it's a blend of those two roles, kind of almost not quite consuming its own smoke, but actually having a nice great hub for itself, and then bringing in new things that add to the mix within the city as a whole.
Absolutely, thank you. Now, next one, we're coming back to you, Councillor Mellon. Like many cities, Nottingham has an ambitious carbon net zero target. How can the site contribute to the city's aspirations? Does it need specific BREEAM targets, maybe?
Well, I'd like to say that we have a greater ambition than most cities, and I think we're further ahead than most cities as well. And I love to talk about the things that we do in our environmental ambitions, whether it be that just beside this site there's the waste incinerator that we take the heat from, and the steam heats 5,000 houses in our city and many of our city centre buildings, through to the electric bus which currently runs through the site, and the biofuel bus which runs along Manvers Street at one end of the site. Our public transport is a great asset to our city, and the tram line, which future routes might well skirt the island site on their way out to the racecourse. We have 40% of our journeys in Nottingham done by public transport, more than anywhere other city outside of London. And then obviously other things, the more bespoke projects, like the retrofitting of houses and the work as a result of the workplace parking levy, which has reduced or at least sustained our levels of congestion when other cities are increasing. So yes, the Island Quarter has really got to maintain those standards and help us improve them. So the linear park will be great, as will the use of the canal. That's going to be very exciting, and I can see that growing and growing. I think the standard of the building, absolutely, that need to meet high standards in the way that they are built, and hopefully maybe they can link up to the district heating system and have not only cheap but environmentally friendly energy. I think there's going to be definitely many opportunities to add to the things that are already going on our way to our journey of being carbon neutral by 2028.
Definitely. I mean, there's loads of things there, isn't there? The opportunities are endless, as they say. Now, Richard, we are coming back to you. This is from Colin Hallahan from Faithful and Gold. Given the tumultuous year so far and the challenges it's brought, what are the opportunities for the city and the site?
I was just going to actually add my support to the Carbon Zero 2028. We are working very closely with the council to really create a truly sustainable development. We're looking to put in cycle lanes. We want running circuits. Horticulture is important to us. We've got this new park, which with its new sort of east-west link, and we want to work with organisations that have sustainability very high on their agenda. We want to source as much as possible, as locally as possible, not only for us but also for the occupiers of the site.
No, of course, definitely, incredibly important at the forefront of a lot of people's minds at the moment as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll go back to that question for you, Richard. Given the tumultuous year so far and the challenges it's brought, what are the opportunities, would you say, for the city and the site?
Well, I think the Island Quarter, it needs to be aspirational, not just for Nottingham, or indeed the Midlands, but actually for the UK. We want to build businesses. We want to create homes for people who want to work on the site. It needs to be a great place to live and to work and to play, as we've said before. You know, Conygar's got a lot of experience in this game. It knows the sort of scheme we're trying to create and how we're going to get people to come there. It's going to give Nottingham the opportunity to attract those wide variety of businesses. It's going to build on what's there already. You know, we've got some great names. We've got the BioCity. We've got the BBC. You know, let's create something that is truly worldwide as an attraction for Nottingham.
Cities, I suppose, if by cities we're talking kind of city centres primarily, I suppose within that. You know, I think there's some key elements of city centres that the Island Quarter site kind of needs to respond to, and it's probably those things that will, you know, kind of will last, because dense urban places are about the benefits that kind of come from agglomeration. You know, they're about being economic drivers. They're about humans coming together. You know, it's where we've kind of invested in our infrastructure for decades, or centuries. Kind of in the case of Nottingham, and it's where kind of people want stuff to do. They want to be able to live, to work, but also kind of bring to life things with events and so on. And I think the Island Quarter has got kind of all of the potential and the approach that kind of the Conygar team have been continuously kind of delivering to, in terms of my and councillors and other expectations, and we've kept pushing the bar up for them and where we want them to get to. And I think, you know, they can create a place, and using that real place making drive and understanding and kind of curation of that. So it's not just about building some roads and building some buildings. Actually, it's about the interconnectedness of all of that and the spaces in between. And I think that's the kind of the vital bit that adds as an opportunity to the city. City centres were changing, and anyway, some of the crisis we're kind of still living through now kind of has hastened some of those things. And I think we have a live project here, and I think an eager development team to try and position the Island Quarter so what happens there adds to the whole of the city. You know, so the 2 and 2 start to equal 5. Kind of, I think that kind of thinking. That's where we certainly are sort of kind of pushing that thinking in terms of kind of what opportunities kind of this gives for the city.
You touched just there a little bit about kind of how things have had to change in the past few months. Can you expand on how the city's approach to planning has changed as a result of the coronavirus pandemic that we are still in?
How we do it, we don't do it in person at the moment, most part. That's probably the kind of fundamental change. But you know, the city council as a whole was a bit ahead of the curve, I think, here in terms of kind of agile working and the technology, and being able to very quickly kind of leave en masse Loxley House, but then get back up to speed with doing everything virtually. And you know, actually, it's amazing how quickly you can go from one meeting to the next now, not having to even walk across the building or walk from meeting room to. But kind of, I suppose, joking aside, the way for quite some time in Nottingham we've done planning is that, you know, it's a facilitating role. Sometimes it can be kind of, the policy says this, therefore the answer is no, kind of, and probably the reality is, you know, you've got to write a planning policy context for the needs of a place, and the needs of Nottingham have been about using development activity, regeneration, to deliver kind of the benefits for the citizens of Nottingham and to improve it as a place as a whole. So that runs through kind of all of the policy context that we've got in place. And, you know, I and the city council and the city, I think, you know, are really lucky that kind of the teams that are involved in this, whether it's the planning teams, the regen teams, property, traffic, kind of major projects, you know, I can keep going on, but actually the kind of culture behind them is about, I can often say, creative problem solving. You know, it's not about writing a local plan. It's not about kind of issuing a planning decision or a piece of paper.
It's about using that role that we have to be a facilitator, an enthuser, and really being part of that kind of reputation of the city, to say in what has been, will continue to be even more quite a competitive environment. So, it should feel like if you want to come and invest in Nottingham, build in Nottingham, whether you're, from Nottingham, from close by, or from further afield, actually there's a reception for you, and we will help you get from A to B. We have high expectations. You will get the red carpet rolled out, but the expectations that we have of anybody who is changing our city are that they do that in a positive way, and it does contribute to ultimately to the quality of life of its citizens and visitors.
Couldn't agree more. Now, we've got time just for one last question, which I'm going to put to all three of you. And I'm going to come to you first, Councillor Mellon. How can the site in future be seen as part of the city rather than sitting outside the city? It comes back to the connectivity again, I suppose, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does. I think you've got good connectivity to the east, to communities in Nottingham, rich in history, and wanting to access the city centre. To the south, as we've got, as Paul has said, to the waterside and that developments there, and through the canal through to Trent Bridge and the area there. I think going west, then you've got the station within a stone's throw. It's not very far at all. I think it's going to be great for people who want to, come to Nottingham maybe and stay in the hotel and catch their train very easily in the morning with a nice walk along Station Street. And then to the north, the town, the city centre is very near. You're across the island, across London Road, and you're up into the Lace Market, St Mary's Church, the Contemporary, or nipping on the tram at the station and being up into the Market Square in no time at all, or even going north to Nottingham Trent University, or west to Nottingham University and the QMC. So I think this site doesn't need to work too hard to be incorporated absolutely in an expanding city centre, which is expanding in a south direction, and as I've talked already, many other developments in the area. I'm really looking forward to what's going to come, and really appreciative of the partnership approach that Conygar have taken to it.
It's a very exciting time, that's for sure. Paul, would you like to add anything on how it's going to be part of Nottingham City?
There's not much more I can add from what Councillor Mellon has put there, other than I think then it's about the Conygar team now, I suppose, curating the spaces, curating the opportunity, and I think extending an open and forever invitation to the citizens of Nottingham, the neighbourhoods and the kind of community that live around there, to actually come and be part of and enjoy the kind of physical infrastructure that will be put in place. And I think it's I'm sure, I know the team will do this from Conygar, but it's engaging with things like the Nottingham project that's just kind of recently launched about kind of what is the cultural offer, and it's making sure that the kind of dialogue around the city centre strategy as we evolve that team and are a fundamental part of it.
There you go, Richard, and I'll come to you, and you are our ending person. You are the team, so yes, how is it going to work in months and years to come, connecting Nottingham?
The important thing from us, the Island Quarter isn't just for its residents and its occupiers. It is a facility and an opportunity for the people of Nottingham, and equally importantly, the businesses of Nottingham. We have an open door. We need to look after the people who live and work here, but we want to make sure that we are available to everyone. To make this a really important quarter and a hive of activity that Nottingham's proud of, the Midlands are proud of, and the UK should be proud of.
I think you've summed that up pretty perfectly there. Thank you, Councillor David Mellon, Richard Watson and Paul Seddon, for sharing your time on this Friday afternoon to answer those questions. And thank you everyone who has been watching. We hope you're as excited as we are to find where the Island Quarter goes in the months and years to come. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram using the @IslandQuarter. But for now, that's all from us. So have a lovely weekend and we'll see you soon.